Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer 2. Thank you for tuning into this video. What if I told you the United States, the richest country in the world, is actually $26 trillion in debt and the dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power? This isn't a theory, this isn't a myth, this is reality. Your money is worthless and it's losing more and more of its value every single day. Now, this is going to be a video you really need to understand, especially if you're looking into the world of investing. I also have a main channel specifically focusing on precious metals, so if you want to learn about gold and silver, the link will be in the description as well. With that said, let's jump into the video. So, did you know that 30% of Americans still believe to this day that the US dollar is backed by gold? That's not true. Once upon a time, our money was backed by something with real value. So you can see how things would work, right? We had a system that worked to some extent. Nowadays, our money is backed by literally nothing. Literally nothing. So you can see why we are in the position we are now. We keep printing up these dollars with nothing backing them. Let me tell you what money used to be, what it is now, and find out why that $100 bill in your pocket is actually almost worthless. So money as a store of intrinsic value. So here's the problem. Around 5,000 years ago, in Mesopotamia, some smart minds figured out a way to trade their goods better. Say I was a sheep herder back then. Needed a new pair of shoes and went to the shoemaker to get some. Probably not shiny white sneakers, but some leathery somethings that protected my feet when herding. I offered the man a sheep, but unfortunately my old rival sheep herder Jack went to him yesterday in need of a new pair of shoes as well, and already sold him a sheep. So the shoemaker sheep needs were met. What he needed though was somebody to fix his leaking roof. So in order to get me those nice new kicks, I had to find somebody who knew how to fix leaking roofs and needed a sheep, not the most convenient thing in the world. So here was the solution to that. So some smart minds figured out a way to do it better. What did everybody need back then? Food. So the shekel was invented. It was a standardized unit of weight for a certain amount of barley. Smart move, because now I could go to the market, sell my sheep for 3 shekels and buy me a new pair of shoes with 1. That is just one example where money was based on a commodity. Other regions of the world use cowrie shells, for example. These units of trade had inherent worth on their own. Money was invented. So here it talks about money as a voucher. Now let's skip ahead a few thousand years. During World War II, the dollar had already started to rise to power due to Europe emptying their gold chests in order to fund the war, as well as borrowing money from the US in the form of dollars. Until that point, British pound had been the world's reserve currency. So the Second World War started 1944 with the Allies met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They agreed on making the US dollar the new global reserve currency. So the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. But think about this. We're $26 trillion in debt. The US is actually starting to lose other countries' interests, and people are pulling away from taking or making the US dollar their currency. And you can see why or how dangerous this is, especially when we're looking at how every fiat-based system is corrupt. So here's the gold standard. Here's when things actually worked. In the past, global currencies were backed by gold. That means the issuing governments held a certain amount of gold and issued paper money according to the gold's worth. That means, to make it easy, money was a voucher for gold held by the government. So our dollar bills was a voucher to say, hey, I own this amount of gold and I could trade it in for that amount of gold. So let's continue to make difficult things as simple as possible. Back in 1944, the US had the biggest gold reserve. That was the reason why allies agreed to make the dollar the global reserve currency, right? US had the most gold, so let's make their currency the global reserve currency. The idea was a government to have a certain amount of dollars ready for the case that the own currency was devalued. If that were the case, the countries could use their dollar holdings to buy back their own currency on the market, decreasing the amount in circulation, which meant an increase in price. So far so good, right? So now we're either had currencies that have had an intrinsic value, such as cowrie shells or golden coins, or we had vouchers representing the value of something, like gold or silver held by the issuing entity. Okay, let's fast forward again, but not that far this time. After World War II, Europe and Japan were rebuilt with the help of the US. The Marshall Plan and the Dodge Plan helped by losing countries in simple terms by printing dollar bills that the countries could use to buy imported goods and rebuild the economy. So here where they talk about abandoning the gold standard, and this is when things went downhill fast. This is where it gets interesting. We have a global reserve currency that has no intrinsic value. It's like having a shekel of barley you could eat, or a rare cowrie shell, and it's no longer redeemable like a voucher. See, it was lawful money, but now it's not. And gold and silver are no longer seen as something of monetary value, but it still has intrinsic value. Remember that, intrinsic value. So things are switched. Something that's actually money isn't money, and something that is money isn't actually money. So money had become an idea, a promise, if you will. It's a promissory note. The real value, something that with real money, is something that cannot be created nor destroyed. That's what gold and silver are. That's why I say spot price is irrelevant. That coin isn't worth the spot price attached to it. It's the metal content inside of that coin. The spot price attached is basically irrelevant. That's also why you don't want to just invest in the things that are pegged to the US dollar. That's why Bitcoin was such a cool idea, because it was decentralized. There was no Bitcoin bank or Bitcoin police. Just like gold and silver, they have real value. So a promise by the US government that if I receive $1 today, somebody somewhere else will give me something in exchange for it tomorrow. And our global monetary and economic system runs on that idea. And you can see how delusional that idea is. So here's where it gets even crazier. Our money is backed by debt. Our money's backed by debt. It's like trying to pay off a credit card with another credit card. We're trying to get ourselves out of debt by replacing it with more debt. You see how this is backwards, and you can see why we're in the position we are today, especially with these trillion-dollar stimulus packages, just trying to throw a band-aid of money on the economy, trying to keep things afloat, when the real issue is that exactly. See, the Federal Reserve needs to inflate the money in circulation in order to keep the economy going. If it didn't, the economy would collapse. So the US basically buy the money with collateral like US Treasuries. That means money is being printed on the promise that the US state's debt will be paid back. Do you really think we're going to be paying back $26 trillion? Go to usdebtclock.org. That number isn't going down, it's rapidly going up. So this is the point where we go from interesting to concerning. No, this is not going to be a doomsday prediction, but it's something to think about. The problem with paying back debt is that the US actually has a lower GDP than it has debts. Some would go as far as to argue that the US is actually already bankrupt, or at least heading there, but let's not get too crazy now. So it goes into this graphic, and let's talk about this, because this is a really interesting thing. A lot of people say that there is going to be a new currency in place. Something's going to replace the dollar, whether that's Bitcoin, because if in my opinion, if money was going to be, or fiat currency was going to be replaced, it would have to be digital. We're living in a new technological era, so I would think it would be something similar to Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin is the solution. There's too many problems with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is basically a rough draft, but I do like the decentralized idea. Right now, if there would be a new currency, it would probably be Ripple, because Ripple is Bitcoin, or it's cryptocurrency, also mixed in and intertwined with banks. So it kind of has a little bit of both, so it probably would be Ripple or something like that. Now, you're talking about money in the future, so if, say, the US dollar became the global reserve currency at around 1920 in a post-World War I, that would mean it's been pretty much exactly 100 years. And it's crazy because in 1933, FDR changed the gold to silver ratio from 16-1 to 75-1. And that's also when things went downhill extremely fast. So it doesn't take a global meltdown for this to happen. It's happening regardless. The pandemic only threw the icing on the cake, only was the cherry on top to expose how broke we really are. So I hope you guys understand this video. I hope this really exposed and shows the light, or shines a light on our financial system, or how corrupt it is, and also why it's so important to invest in the gold and silver. Like I said, I specifically talk about gold and silver, why you should invest into it, where to invest into it, how to invest into it on my main channel, Silver Slayer. We just hit 30,000 subscribers on there, so you want to be subscribed. This is my second channel where I mainly focus on the monetary stuff, the financial stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to smash the like button. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer 2. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.